Jack Warren wiped the sweat from his brow as he guided his old horse back toward his small farmhouse. The twin suns of New Montana were setting, painting the sky in shades of orange and purple. His back ached from 12 hours of fixing the irrigation pipes that kept his crops alive in this harsh frontier world. 5 years on this planet, and it never got easier. The wagon creaked beneath him, loaded with spare parts he had traded for in town. Jack's eyes were heavy with exhaustion. 3 years since Carol died, and he still couldn't get used to coming home to an empty house. As the wagon rounded the final bend in the dirt road, Jack's farmhouse came into view. It wasn't much, a 2-room structure with a metal roof and solar panels, but it was his. The fields of wheat-corn hybrids stretched out behind it, the planet's answer to Earth crops that refused to grow in the alien soil. Jack was so tired he almost missed it. A slight movement in the back of his wagon. He turned slowly, his hand moving to the laser cutter on his belt. Not much of a weapon, but better than nothing. Out here, 20 miles from the nearest neighbor, a man couldn't be too careful. There, curled among his supplies, was a woman. Jack blinked, certain he was seeing things, but she remained very real and very much asleep in his wagon. Her clothes were dusty but well-made, clearly not from the colony. Earth-made. Expensive. "Hey," Jack said, his voice rough from disuse. When she didn't respond, he reached out carefully and touched her shoulder. "Hey, lady." The woman's eyes flew open. They were bright green and filled with fear. She scrambled backward, nearly falling out of the wagon. "Easy now," Jack said, raising his hands to show he meant no harm. "I'm not going to hurt you, but you're in my wagon on my land." The woman looked around wildly, taking in the landscape, as if seeing it for the first time. Her breathing came in quick gasps. "Where am I?" she asked. Her accent was pure Earth, the rounded vowels of the upper class that Jack hadn't heard since leaving the home planet. "My farm. New Montana colony. About 20 miles from Settlement 8. Jack studied her carefully. She didn't look hurt, but something was clearly wrong. "How'd you get in my wagon?" The woman swallowed hard. "You were in town, getting supplies. I needed to get away from the spaceport." Jack sighed. Just what he needed. Trouble. "I'm going to need more than that. What's your name?" "Eliza. Eliza Ford." She straightened her shoulders, trying to gather her dignity despite being caught hiding like a thief. Jack noticed a small case beside her. "That yours?" Eliza nodded and clutched it tightly to her chest. "Please, I just need a place to stay for 1 night. Then I'll move on." The last rays of the setting suns cast long shadows across the fields. Night came quickly on New Montana, bringing freezing temperatures even in summer. The settlement was too far to reach before dark. "Let's get inside," Jack said at last. "Whatever trouble you're in, we can figure it out in the morning." Relief flooded Eliza's face. "Thank you." Jack helped her down from the wagon and led the horse into the small barn. As they walked toward the house, he noticed how Eliza kept looking, over her shoulder, scanning the horizon. Inside the house was simple but clean. Jack lit the biogas lamps and activated the heating system. "It's not much," he said, suddenly aware of how plain everything was. "It's perfect," Eliza said, though her fine clothes looked out of place against the rough-hewn furniture. Jack put water on to boil for tea. Real tea was nearly impossible to get here, but the local herb mixture wasn't bad. "You want to tell me what you're running from?" Eliza set her case on the table and looked at him for a long moment, as if deciding whether to trust him. Finally, she opened the case and pulled out a document. "This is why I chose your wagon," she said, handing him the paper. Jack took it, eyes widening as he read. It was a marriage contract, a mail-order bride agreement with his name on it. "I never signed this," he said, looking up sharply. "I know. I forged it." Eliza's hands twisted together. "I needed a reason to leave Earth, to come to the colonies. A mail-order bride contract was the easiest way. So you picked my name at random? Forged my signature?" Jack felt anger rising. Identity theft was serious, even out here. Your name was in the colony records as a single male with established property. I never planned to actually find you. Eliza's voice shook slightly. I was going to get off at the spaceport and take the next transport to the outer colonies. What changed? He found me. Fear crept back into her eyes. My fiancé. He tracked me to the spaceport. I had to hide. Jack ran a hand through his graying hair. Your fiancé? You're engaged? Was engaged. To Commander Richard Blackwood of the United Earth Federation. Eliza's face hardened. A monster in a uniform. The name meant nothing to Jack, but her tone told him enough. He'd seen plenty of women with that same look back on Earth, the ones married to powerful men who use their fists behind closed doors. He hit you? Jack asked quietly. Worse. He controls everything. Where I go, who I talk to, what I wear. Eliza looked down at her hands. And his work. There are things he's doing. Experiments on frontier colonies. Terrible things. Jack poured the tea and pushed a cup toward her. Carol had always said he was too soft-hearted. One night, he said, firmly, then we figure out where you go next. Eliza nodded, but they both knew it wouldn't be that simple. On a frontier world with only one spaceport, there weren't many places to hide. Later, as Jack made up the spare bed with fresh sheets, Eliza stood in the doorway of the small room. Why are you helping me? You don't know me. Jack thought about it. My wife died 3 years ago. Colony fever. No cure yet. He smoothed the blanket with calloused hands. She would have helped you. That's reason enough. That night, Jack lay awake listening to the wind howling across the plains of New Montana. In the room across the hall, a stranger slept under his roof, a woman with secrets and a dangerous man on her trail. Jack had come to this planet to be left alone, to farm his land and nurse his grief in peace. Now peace seemed very far away. As sleep finally claimed him, one thought circled in his mind. Tomorrow would bring trouble, and for the first time in years, he wasn't facing it alone. Morning came with a soft blue light through the windows. Jack woke at first dawn, his body trained by years of farm work. For a moment, he forgot about his visitor until he heard movement in the kitchen. He found Eliza cooking breakfast on his old stove. She had found the dried eggs and bread mix and was making something that smelled better than anything Jack had eaten in months. You didn't have to do that, Jack said, stepping into the room. Eliza turned, spatula in hand. She had washed her face and tied her long brown hair back. It's the least I can do. You took me in when you had every reason not to. They ate in silence, the food indeed better than Jack's usual meals. After, Jack pushed his plate away and faced her directly. You can't stay here, he said, not for long. If this commander is as powerful as you say, he'll find you. Eliza nodded. I know. I'm planning to leave today. There's a transport to the outer rim colonies at the end of the week. And until then, I'll find somewhere to hide in town. Jack shook his head. The settlement's small. Strangers stand out. If he comes looking, someone will point you out. Eliza's shoulders slumped. She looked down at her hands, and Jack noticed they were smooth and unworked. Not a farmer's hands. Not like his own. Calloused and rough from years of labor. I need to check the western fields today, Jack said after a long pause. The irrigation system is failing again. Can you hand me that tablet? Eliza passed him the device from the table. Jack pulled up the system schematics and Eliza leaned over to look. This connection is wrong, she said, pointing to the diagram. The flow regulator should be after the filter, not before it. Jack stared at her. How do you know that? I was an atmospheric scientist before. She stopped. Before Richard, I specialized in closed system environments. Jack studied her with new interest. The colony's been having trouble with the environmental systems. The air processors keep breaking down. I could look at them, Eliza offered. If you want. An hour later, they rode in Jack's wagon toward the western fields. The suns were climbing in the sky, warming the cool morning air. Eliza sat beside him, eyes constantly scanning the horizon. No one comes out this far, Jack assured her. Except, me land's too poor for most farmers. Then why are you here? Eliza asked. Jack was quiet for a moment. After Carol died, I couldn't stand being around people, their pity, their questions. Out here, it's just me and the land. They reached the irrigation hub by mid-morning. Jack showed Eliza the system, and she immediately began to check connections and flow rates. Her hands moved with confidence over the equipment. This is all wrong, she said, pointing to the main control panel. The settings are for earth crops, but this soil has different mineral content. You're washing away the nutrients. Jack watched, as she adjusted settings, explaining as she worked. He hadn't talked this much with anyone in years, certainly not about technical problems that had been driving him crazy. By afternoon, the system was running at nearly twice its previous efficiency. They moved on to the next field and then the next. Jack found himself impressed by Eliza's knowledge and quick thinking. You're good at this, he said as they headed back to the farmhouse. Better than most of the colony engineers. Eliza smiled, a real smile that reached her eyes. I miss working with systems. Richard didn't want me to continue my career after we got engaged. Jack frowned. Why would you agree to marry someone like that? The smile faded from Eliza's face. I didn't know what he was like at first. By the time I did, I was trapped. She looked out over the fields. His family has connections in the government. My father's business depends on their support. And now? Now I've run away from the most powerful man I know, forged official documents, and stowed away on a colony ship. Eliza gave a small laugh, with no humor in it. If I'm caught, my father will lose everything, and I'll lose my freedom. They reached the farmhouse as the first sun was setting. Jack unhitched the horse while Eliza carried their tools inside. The day's work had been more productive than any in recent memory. Over a simple dinner, Eliza told Jack more about the environmental systems in the main settlement. They're failing because they weren't designed for this planet's atmospheric composition, she explained. The filters clog too quickly. The colony leaders say we'll run out of clean air in 6 months if they can't fix it, Jack said. Eliza leaned forward. I could help. I've worked on similar systems before. Why would you? You're leaving on the next transport, remember? Before Eliza could answer, a loud beep came from her case. She jumped up and opened it, pulling out a small device Jack didn't recognize. Her face went pale. What is it? Jack asked. A ship entered the planet's orbit an hour ago, she said, her voice barely above a whisper. United Earth Federation military vessel. Jack set down his cup. Could be routine patrol. Eliza shook her head. Richard commands the patrol for this sector. It's him. He's found me. Jack stood and moved to the window, looking out at the darkening sky as if he might see the ship. How long before they land? A few hours, maybe. They'll dock at the main settlement first. Eliza's hands trembled. I need to leave. And go where? It's a 3-hour ride to town and there's nowhere to hide once you get there. Eliza paced the small room. I can't stay here. I've put you in danger already. Jack thought for a moment. There's an old mining cave about 10 miles east, not comfortable but good for hiding. You've done enough for me, Eliza said. I can't ask for more. Jack looked at her steadily. You haven't asked, I'm offering. That night they packed supplies. Jack gathered food, water, and blankets while Eliza studied maps of the area on his tablet. Neither mentioned what would happen if Commander Richard Blackwood came looking for her at Jack's farm. As they worked, Eliza stopped suddenly. Jack, there's something else you should know. Something about Richard's work. Jack looked up from the bag he was packing. What? The experiments I mentioned. They're not just any tests. Eliza's voice was low and urgent. He's testing weather control systems, weapons that can destroy a colony's environment. Jack stared at her. Why would the Federation develop weapons against their own colonies? Because some colonies are getting too independent, too far from Earth's control. Eliza met his eyes. New Montana is on his list. Jack and Eliza left the farmhouse before dawn. The sky was still dark, with only the smallest of New Montana's 3 moons providing light. They rode Jack's second horse, leaving the wagon behind. It would be too slow, too easy to spot. "Keep your head down," Jack said as they passed over a ridge. "From here, someone with good binoculars could see us from the settlement." Eliza pressed closer to Jack's back, her arms tight around his waist. The horse moved carefully along the rocky path. Jack knew these hills well. He had explored them during his first year on the planet, back when he still had energy for such things. They rode in silence for nearly an hour. The first sun began to rise, painting the eastern sky with pale yellow light. Jack kept checking over his shoulder, watching for dust clouds or the gleam of vehicles. "Do you think he knows I'm here?" Jack asked. "With you, I mean." Eliza was quiet for a moment. "If he tracked the ship I came on, he knows I arrived at Settlement 8. Someone might have seen me get into your wagon." "Great," Jack muttered. "So I'm harboring a fugitive from the United Earth Federation." "I'm sorry," Eliza said softly. "I never meant to bring this trouble to you." Jack didn't respond. What could he say? That it was fine? It wasn't. That he didn't mind? He did. 3 years of quiet, lonely existence, and now he was riding into the wilderness with a woman he barely knew, running from a powerful man who could destroy his farm with a single order. Yet something had changed in him yesterday. Working with Eliza, seeing the irrigation systems come to life under her expert hands, it had woken something he thought had died with Carol. A sense of purpose, connection. The mining cave appeared ahead, a dark opening in the side of a rust-colored hill. Jack steered the horse toward it, watching the ground for signs of recent visitors. There were none. "It's not much," he said as they dismounted. "But the Federation's survey teams overlooked it. It's not on any official maps." Eliza peered into the darkness. "How did you find it?" "Carol was interested in the planet's geology," Jack said, unpacking supplies from the saddlebags. "We used to explore on rest days." Inside, the cave extended about 30 feet before ending in a pile of rocks. Jack set up a small light, illuminating the rough walls. It was cool but dry, with a flat area where they could sleep. "I need to get back to the farm," Jack said, arranging the supplies. "If Richard's men come looking, it will seem strange if I'm gone." Fear flashed across Eliza's face. "What if they follow you back here? I'll take a different route back, make it hard to track me." Jack handed her the emergency communicator from his pack. "This has a short range, but it will reach the farm. Use it only if you have to." Eliza nodded, clutching the device. "How long should I stay here?" "A few days, maybe. Let me find out what's happening in the settlement." Jack hesitated. "If I don't come back in 3 days, head west. There's another small colony about 100 miles away. They don't ask many questions." The thought hung between them. The possibility that Jack might not return. That Richard's men might find him, force him to reveal where Eliza was hiding. "Be careful," Eliza said. Jack mounted his horse. "Keep the light off unless you need it. There's enough food for a week." As he rode away, Jack glanced back once. Eliza stood at the cave entrance, a small figure against the dark opening. She raised her hand in farewell, then disappeared inside. The ride back to the farm seemed longer. Jack took a winding path, crossing rocky ground where hoof prints wouldn't show. By mid-afternoon, he was approaching his land from the north, staying hidden behind a line of tall grass. What he saw made him duck down immediately. 2 sleek vehicles were parked in front of his house, black military-grade transports with United Earth Federation insignia on their sides. 4 men in uniform stood outside while others moved in and out of his home. Jack's heart pounded. He was too late. They were already here. Staying low, he circled around to the barn. If he could get close enough, maybe he could hear what they were saying, learn what they knew. As he crept closer, a voice rang out across the yard. A man stepped out of Jack's house, tall, with broad shoulders and a commander's uniform. His face was handsome in a hard way, with a square jaw and cold eyes. "Warren is hiding her," the man said to the others. "The transport logs show she arrived 3 days ago. She never boarded an outbound ship. And the old woman at the supply Store confirmed she saw a woman matching Ford's description climbing into Warren's wagon. One of the other men nodded. "We'll find her, Commander Blackwood. The farm isn't that big." So this was Richard Blackwood. Jack studied the man from his hiding place. There was no emotion on Richard's face, just cold determination. This wasn't a man looking for a lost love. This was a hunter tracking prey. "I want patrols sent to all nearby farms," Richard ordered. "Check any place she might be hiding. And I want Warren found, now." The men moved with practiced efficiency, boarding the vehicles. Engines hummed to life and they sped away in different directions, leaving 2 guards at the house. Jack stayed hidden, mind racing. They were looking for him now. If they found him, they would know he had helped Eliza. Richard would make him talk. He had to warn her. But how? The communicator had a limited range. He needed to get closer to the cave. Jack waited until dark, watching as the guards set up portable lights around his house. They were thorough, professional. This wasn't just about finding a runaway fiancé. This was a military operation. When the second sun set, Jack slipped away from his position and headed east, staying off the main paths. He had no horse now. It was still tied up near the barn. He would have to go on foot. The night was cold, the wind cutting through his jacket. Jack moved as quickly as he dared, keeping the distant lights of his farm behind him. He had been walking for about an hour when he heard engines. Diving behind a rock formation, Jack pressed himself to the ground as a Federation vehicle roared past, its searchlights scanning the terrain. They were widening the search area. Once the vehicle was gone, Jack continued east. His leg muscles burned from the effort of moving quickly over the rough ground. It would take most of the night to reach the cave this way. As he walked, Jack thought about what he had seen. Richard's men were searching methodically, with equipment his farm community could only dream of. How long before they found the cave? Before they found Eliza? And what then? Would Richard simply take her back to Earth? Or was there more to it? Eliza had mentioned weather control weapons, tests on colonies, New Montana on a list. Jack stopped walking. A realization hit him. Richard wasn't just here for Eliza, she was the excuse. He was here to assess New Montana, to decide if it needed pacification. Looking up at the star-filled sky, Jack made a decision. He couldn't just hide Eliza and hope Richard would leave. The entire colony was at risk. They needed to warn the Bay settlement leaders, show them the evidence Eliza had mentioned, but first he had to reach her before Richard's men did. Dawn was breaking when Jack finally reached the area near the cave. His legs ached from walking all night and his throat was dry from thirst. He moved carefully, checking for signs of Federation patrols before approaching the cave entrance. "Eliza," he called softly as he entered the dark space. "It's me, Jack." No answer came. Jack turned on his small light and swung it around the cave. The supplies were still there, neatly arranged, but Eliza was gone. Jack's heart sank. Had Richard's men found her already? He searched the cave for any sign of a struggle but found none. Then he noticed marks in the dust near the back wall. Someone had moved the pile of rocks there. Jack began to pull away the stones, revealing a narrow opening. It was a tunnel, leading deeper into the hill. Jack squeezed through, his light showing a passage that twisted downward. "Eliza," he called again, his voice echoing slightly. A light flashed ahead, momentarily blinding him. Then Eliza's voice came from the darkness. "Jack, is that you?" Relief flooded through him. "Yes. Are you okay?" Eliza appeared around a bend in the tunnel. Her own light held high. Her face was dirty, but she looked unhurt. "I heard vehicles last night," she said. "I was afraid they had found the cave, so I looked for another way out. This tunnel goes all the way through the hill." Jack nodded, impressed by her quick thinking. "Richard is at my farm. His men are searching everywhere." They moved back to the main cave where Jack drank deeply from a water container and told Eliza everything he had seen. "He's not just here for me," Eliza said when he finished. "The weapons testing must be starting soon. That's why he was so determined to find me before I could warn anyone." Jack sat down heavily on a rock. We need to get to Settlement 8. Tell the colony leaders what's happening. They won't believe us, Eliza said. Richard is a commander in the Federation. I'm just a runaway. And you're a lonely farmer nobody pays attention to. Jack A. finished. I know, but we have to try. Eliza reached for her case and opened it. Inside was a small data drive. I have proof. Files I took from Richard's personal system before I left. Reports on the weather control tests. Plans for New Montana. Jack stared at the tiny device. That's why he's really hunting you. Not because he wants you back, but because you have evidence that could ruin him. Yes. Eliza looked down at the drive. The Federation Council doesn't know what he's doing. This is his private project, funded by people who want tighter control over the outer colonies. They ate a quick meal of dry ration bars, planning their next move. Settlement 8 was too closely watched now. They needed allies, people who would listen. What about Kate Miller? Eliza suggested. The colony security chief. I saw her name, in the files Richard kept. He marked her as a potential problem. Jack nodded slowly. Kate's good people. Served in the Federation forces before retiring here. She never trusted the central government much. Can we reach her without going through the main settlement? Maybe. She has a home on the south edge of town. If we're careful, we might get there without being seen. They packed only what they needed, leaving the rest of the supplies hidden in the cave. Using the tunnel Eliza had found, they emerged on the far side of the hill into a small valley. No signs of Federation vehicles were visible. They walked south, keeping to ravines and gullies where they couldn't be spotted easily. The day grew hot as both suns climbed high in the sky. Jack shared his water with Eliza, watching as she matched his pace without complaint. By mid-afternoon, they could see the outer buildings of Settlement 8 in the distance. Thin trails of smoke rose from cooking fires and power generators. Look, Eliza said suddenly, pointing to the sky. A large ship hung above the settlement, its dark shape imposing against the blue sky. Not a small patrol vessel, but a full military cruiser. That's the Valiant, Eliza said, her voice tight. Richard's flagship. He's brought serious firepower. Jack felt a chill despite the heat. Why would he need a ship that size to find one? Person? He doesn't. Eliza's eyes were fixed on the massive vessel. That ship carries the weather control devices. They're preparing for a demonstration. They moved faster now, skirting the edge of town through fields of stunted crops. Jack led them to a small cluster of buildings separated from the main settlement. One house stood slightly apart from the others, with a metal fence around it. That's Kate's place, Jack said. She values her privacy. She values her. As they approached, Jack noticed something was wrong. The gate in the fence hung open. No lights showed in the windows. Wait, he whispered, pulling Eliza behind a storage shed. Something's not right. He scanned the area, looking for movement. Nothing seemed out of place, yet his instincts told him danger was near. We need to make sure it's safe, Jack said. Stay here. I'll check it out. Eliza grabbed his arm. No, it's too dangerous. If they've found Kate. Before Jack could answer, the sound of an engine broke the silence. A Federation vehicle appeared around the corner of Kate's house, moving slowly as if searching for something. Jack and Eliza pressed themselves against the shed wall. The vehicle passed without stopping, continuing toward the main settlement. They've already been here, Jack said grimly. Kate must be compromised. Eliza's face showed her despair. Where do we go now? Who else can help us? Jack thought hard. Their options were running out. Then he remembered something. A conversation from months ago, during a rare trip to the community center. The miners, he said. The deep copper mine workers. They have their own settlement about 5 miles west of here. They never liked Federation oversight. Will they help us? They might. Their leader, Ben Foster, served with Kate in the Federation forces. If anyone would listen to us, it's him. As they turned to leave, a voice called out from behind them. Don't move. Jack and Eliza froze. Jack slowly turned his head to see a woman standing there, a pulse rifle aimed steadily at them. She was tall and lean, with gray hair cut short and a scar across her left cheek. Kate, Jack said, relief in his voice. Kate Miller didn't lower her weapon. "Warren, what are you doing skulking around my property?" "We need your help," Jack said. "The Federation is planning something. Something bad for the colony." Kate's eyes moved to Eliza, narrowing slightly. "And who's this?" "My name is Eliza Ford," Eliza said, stepping forward despite the weapon pointed at her. "Commander Richard Blackwood is hunting me because I have proof of what he's planning to do to New Montana." Kate's expression didn't change, but something flickered in her eyes. "Blackwood, I should have known." She lowered her rifle slightly. "Inside, now, before his patrols come back." As they hurried toward Kate's house, Jack felt the first stirring of hope. They had found an ally. Now they just needed to convince her of the danger they all faced. Kate's house was simple but well organized. Maps covered one wall and communication equipment filled a corner. She locked the door behind them and pulled the shutters closed. "I've been watching the Federation ships since they arrived," Kate said, placing her rifle on the table. "Something isn't right. Blackwood claims he's here for a routine inspection, but he brought enough firepower to start a war." Eliza set her case on the table and opened it. "He's not here for an inspection. He's here to test weather control weapons. On New Montana." She handed Kate the data drive. "This has everything. Test reports, target lists, schedules." Kate examined the small device. "How did you get this?" "I was engaged to him," Eliza said. "I had access to his personal files. When I discovered what he was planning, I knew I had to warn someone." Kate inserted the drive into her tablet. She read silently, her face growing darker with each swipe of her finger. Finally, she looked up. "This is worse than I thought. According to this, New Montana is just the beginning. They plan to test these weapons on 12 frontier colonies." Jack leaned forward. "Why? What do they gain by destroying their own colonies?" "Control," Kate said grimly. "The outer colonies are getting too independent. Earth doesn't like that. These weapons give them a way to bring us back in line without sending troops. We have to stop them," Jack said. Kate nodded. "We need to get this information to the colony leaders, and we need to disable that ship." She pointed at a spot on one of her maps. "There's an old military bunker here from the first days of settlement. Some of us former Federation soldiers meet there sometimes, people who don't trust Earth anymore." "A militia?" Eliza asked. "We prefer Colony Defense Force," Kate said, with a small smile. "About 20 of us. Not much against a Federation cruiser, but we have some equipment they don't know about." They left Kate's house through a back exit, using a tunnel that led to a storage building nearby. Kate had a small vehicle hidden there, big enough for the three of them. "Keep down," she warned as they drove away from the settlement. "Federation patrols are everywhere." They traveled west, avoiding the main roads. Kate drove expertly, using terrain features to hide their movement. The suns were setting by the time they reached a rocky area dotted with caves. Kate stopped the vehicle behind a large boulder and led them to what looked like a solid rock wall. She pressed her hand against a hidden panel, and a section of rock slid open. Inside was a large cave converted into a base. People moved around equipment, checking weapons and communication devices. They looked up as Kate entered with Jack and Eliza. A tall man with a beard stepped forward. "Kate, we were getting worried." "Ben," Kate greeted him. "We have a situation. This is Jack Warren and Eliza Ford. They have information about why Commander Blackwood is really here." Ben Foster studied the newcomers. "Warren, I know, keeps to himself, farms the north section." His eyes narrowed at Eliza. "You're not from the colony." "No," Eliza admitted. "I came from Earth, with information about what Richard Blackwood plans to do to New Montana." For the next hour, they shared everything they knew. Kate displayed the files from Eliza's drive on a large screen. The militia members gathered around, their faces grim, as they saw the details of the weather control weapons. "These devices can create storms, droughts, even change the air composition," Eliza explained. "They're testing them on frontier colonies to see how effective they are at forcing compliance." "Compliance with what?" one of the militia members asked. New taxes, resource quotas, anything Earth wants, Kate said. And according to the schedule, the first test is set for tomorrow at noon. Ben slammed his fist on the table. We need to warn everyone, get people to shelter. It won't matter, Eliza said. These weapons are designed to affect the entire environment. There's no hiding from them. Then we stop the test, Jack said. All eyes turned to him. We need to disable that ship before they can deploy the weapons. Ben laughed without humor. With what? We have some outdated weapons and a few old Federation security codes. They have a military cruiser. Eliza stepped forward. The weapons need to be calibrated for each planet's specific atmosphere. Richard will do that himself. He doesn't trust anyone else with the final adjustments. How does that help us? Kate asked. I know where on the ship he'll be doing that work, Eliza said. If we can get aboard somehow, we could sabotage the calibration. Getting aboard is impossible, Ben said. Their security is too tight. Jack had been studying the maps on the wall. He pointed to an area near the main settlement. What about the old landing pad? The one they used before building the main spaceport? Kate looked where he was pointing. It's abandoned, too small for their cruiser. But they're using smaller ships to patrol, Jack said. If one landed there. Ben began to nod slowly. We could intercept it, use their own ship to get aboard the cruiser. It's risky, Kate warned. If we're caught, they'll execute all of us for treason. If we do nothing, the colony dies, Jack said simply. As they planned through the night, Jack found himself watching Eliza. She worked with the militia members, explaining Richard's patterns and the ship's layout. Her knowledge was saving them. She could have run, hidden somewhere in the outer colonies. Instead, she was here, risking everything for people she barely knew. Morning came. The plan was set. A small team would intercept one of the patrol ships when it landed for refueling. They would use it to approach the cruiser, claiming a mechanical problem. Eliza would guide them to the weapons control center. There, they would sabotage the calibration systems. I'm going with you, Jack told Eliza as they prepared to leave. Eliza shook her head. You've done enough, Jack. This isn't your fight. It became my fight when you climbed into my wagon, Jack said. Besides, I know machines. I can help with the sabotage. Kate approached them carrying extra weapons. Time to move out. The patrol ship is scheduled to land in 30 minutes. As they left the bunker, Jack felt strangely calm. 3 days ago, his biggest worry had been fixing irrigation pipes. Now he was about to infiltrate a Federation cruiser to save his colony. Eliza walked beside him, her face determined. Jack, she said quietly, if this works, if we survive, what will you do after? Jack considered the question. For years he had been existing, not living. Finding Eliza had changed that. I think, he said slowly, I might try living again. With someone who understands what that means. Eliza smiled. It was a small thing, that smile, but it held hope. Ahead, the Federation cruiser hung in the sky, dark and threatening. Behind them, the suns rose over New Montana, the colony they were fighting to save. Jack checked his weapon and nodded to Kate. It was time to show the United Earth Federation that the frontier colonies would not be controlled by fear. It was time to fight back.